Canadian forces serving in Afghanistan relied on local Afghans to help them make their way with the language and culture. But when the Taliban took back control of that country this year, leading thousands to flee for their lives, those who'd helped our soldiers became targets themselves. Corey Shelson is a retired Canadian Armed Forces captain and part of a group of veterans now helping Afghan interpreters to escape that country and settle here. And he joins us now from London, Ontario. Corey, it's good to meet you. How are you doing?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. In your view, what is our moral obligation to these interpreters that served alongside our soldiers?
Well, we made a commitment. The Canadian government made a commitment to the interpreters who worked with the Canadian Armed Forces during our deployment to Afghanistan. And the Canadian government made a commitment to bring them to Canada, to bring their families to Canada, and to allow them to enjoy the freedoms that we as Canadians enjoy every day. And unfortunately, the Canadian government has not come through on that promise. And as a result, we've got a whack of people that are stranded in a very tough, difficult situation in Afghanistan.
Give us a sense of how close the working relationship was between these interpreters, advisors, helpers, and your people.
So I can speak from my experience personally. I was deployed as a combat engineer officer. I deployed in 2010, and our job was to build the camps and essentially clear the roads and the pathways that soldiers would walk on. Because the weapon of choice by the Taliban at the time was the improvised explosive device or the roadside bomb. Interpreters were key to our ability to operate in Afghanistan. They patrolled with us, they slept in our camps, they wore our uniforms, and we worked together every single day while I was deployed. They were our eyes and ears on the ground. They allowed us to communicate with the locals, and it allowed the locals to communicate with us. They also listened to the radio, and they were able to intercept Taliban communications. And so the interpreters were a lifeline to us. They listened. They were able to decipher what was a real threat and what wasn't, and were able to give us forewarning when an ambush might come so that we could take up a defensive posture. And so the interpreters were key to the ability for guys like myself to stay alive.
And understandably, you feel indebted to them right now, given the good work they did for us. What lengths have veterans such as yourself gone to in order to help these folks out?
Well, there was a previous special immigration program that was in place from 2009 until 2012, whereby several hundred Afghan interpreters were brought to Canada through that program. Unfortunately, the program ended in 2012, and between 2012 and 2021, there were politicians, veterans, and concerned citizens that did their best to try and get some of these interpreters to Canada, but had a very tough time getting that through Parliament. When the Taliban took back Afghanistan, the veteran community at large started receiving all sorts of pleas for help from Afghans that we worked with. We were receiving those through text message, through Facebook, and whatever communication channels people were using to stay in contact with those folks that we had developed very strong relationships with. And starting in June, as the Taliban were rapidly taking back Afghanistan, the veteran community basically volunteered. A number of people volunteered, started working together, and started moving these folks into safe houses as a way to stage them for what we believed would be the eventual evacuation from Kabul by airplane. And the bulk of the folks who came to Kabul were invited by the Canadian government when they announced that there would be an evacuation taking place. And up until about a week ago, the veteran-led NGO called Amin Laura was housing upwards of 1,800 people in safe houses across Kabul. They were providing food, shelter, medical support, emotional support, and also helping with the application process. To fund those, the veteran community, we raised over $2.5 million from over 2,200 Canadian donors. But unfortunately, that money has now run out, and Amin Laura was forced, unfortunately, to scale back those safe houses, and those 1,800 people, for the most part, are now out on the streets.
For those people who are on the streets and who are still in Afghanistan and waiting for our help, what kind of threats are they facing on a daily basis?
Well, I mean, the new government, i.e. the Taliban, what we've observed is the crimes and the killings are happening in the shadows. So they're doing a good job of keeping it off the news, but we're receiving regular reports coming in through folks that we're talking to on the ground. Um, we've been provided video footage of Taliban executing a police officer within the last 14 days. We've received reports of Taliban killing a midwife in a hospital when a baby was being born. We've seen national Olympian level athletes being captured and interrogated, beaten up and bruised. And unfortunately, we've seen the execution of interpreters that work for Canada. And they are literally capturing these folks in the middle of the night. They are tying their hands behind their back. They're shooting them in the face and then dropping them on the front doorstep of their families' homes and then denying it that it was them in the first place. And so there is a real threat to the population who have ties to coalition forces, and it's getting worse day by day.
Are you, Corey, still in direct contact with any of those folks over there that were helpful to us?
So Amin Laura, the Canadian-led NGO that I was just speaking of, as of this morning, I received an update that Amin Laura is in contact with 2,761 families, which account for 13,261 people. So we are definitely in contact with a tremendous number of affected Afghans, and we are doing our absolute best to help advocate for this voiceless community and ask the government of Canada to expedite the approval process so we can try and get some more out of the country.
Let me just do a little fact checking here, because I have heard that you personally helped rescue one of your former interpreters who was so essential to your work over there, along with his wife and his 18-month-old daughter. Have I got that right?
Well, I was a link in the chain.
Oh, you're so typically Canadian modest, but that's good. We get that. Tell me, how did you do it?
So when this all started, I was thinking to myself, how can I help? What can I do? And I think the best place that I could support was by bringing awareness, by speaking to individuals like yourself. But it was really important at the time to try and tell the story of these trapped individuals. And I was able to be reintroduced to an interpreter that I worked with back in 2010, who is trapped in Lashkargah, Helmand province, which is in the southwest of Afghanistan. And what I was trying to do was gather some information about how bad was the threat, what did his life look like, so that I could pass that on to the Canadian population through interviews like this. It was during that process of speaking with him that the Taliban took over Lashkargah, and he sent a call for help to me by text message saying, if I don't get out of here within the next 24 hours, I'm afraid I'm going to be dead. And most likely my wife will be taken, and the Taliban will take her and wed her, and my daughter will be taken into, basically custody within the Taliban. And so I was the person who received the plea for help, and I leveraged the network of veterans and the connections that we had on the ground. And within a few days, we were actually able to coordinate with the Afghan National Army, which was still operating at the time, to get a helicopter to pick him up out of Helmand province and fly him to safety. We were able to help coordinate with his wife and daughter to get them driven to one of the safe houses. And we were also able to help get his younger brother out. Luckily enough, they were accepted as part of the immigration program, and they've since settled in Ontario and are starting English school and getting their jobs. So, it's proof that this is possible. And I think if a hodgepodge group of veterans who have come together doing this on the side of our desk, literally, volunteering, if we can get folks out of the country, surely the Canadian government must be able to do the same.
If for privacy reasons you don't want to identify where they are, that's fine. But how are they adapting to their new country?
They're doing great. Obviously there are some, it's a different culture. It's a different place to live. The first time I took him to a grocery store, he was like, what is this place? I was like, oh, this is a grocery store. And, I said, here, take the shopping cart and go grab the things that you need. And he came back with, 2 or 3 small items, unlike most Canadians who go and fill up our shopping cart and pack our cupboards. I asked him, I said, what was it like where you lived? And he's like, well, I lived in a 3-bedroom home. Myself, my wife, and my brother lived in myself, my wife, and my daughter in 1 bedroom. My other brother in the 2nd bedroom, and my third brother with his wife and 4 children were in the 3rd bedroom. They didn't have electricity. They had running water, but it wasn't potable, and they did not have a fridge, and they cooked over an open fire. And so, if you think about the culture shock that I experienced going to Afghanistan, it's an equivalent culture shock of them coming to Canada. But I can tell you, the smiles on their faces, seeing them get into their apartment, and also seeing the local community rally to donate. Literally, we outfitted 2 apartments with furniture, clothing, dishes, staples, so that they didn't have to spend any of their money on getting those apartments set up. And to all the Canadians that continue to support this effort, thank you so much from all of us that are working on it. We would not be able to do this without your financial donations and your donations of furniture and clothing and whatnot. It's really making a difference for these folks.
Do you want to say what the local community was?
Due to the security situation, I'm not going to comment on that.
Okay, that's fine. How many interpreters have you and your team managed to get out of Afghanistan to date?
Leading up and during the air evacuation that was led by the Canadian government and was facilitated by the brave men and women of our Canadian Armed Forces, which we must reinforce how good of a job they did. They were really tasked with a tough situation. And the soldiers did, I think, the absolute best they could with what was given to them. During that period, our team helped support the evacuation of around 1,500 folks that we were in contact with. Since the air bridge closed, so since the American-led evacuation closed and essentially the airport closed, we've been able to move almost another 400 people out of Afghanistan by methods that we've coordinated on our own. I'm talking driving them to a border in a secure convoy, and also evacuating them by air to neighboring countries. And we've done that all with the money that we've raised from the donations of generous Canadians, and we continue to do that to date.
Let me read a quote to you that I've seen in the popular press, as they call it. While other countries send buses and helicopters to help Afghans who worked alongside them, Canada sent emails. Is that a fair characterization of what this country has done so far?
Well, we did send soldiers. Our Canadian Special Operations Regiment was on the ground, and they did one heck of a job. Talk about a complex situation and a very high-risk situation. And so I don't want to take anything away from the soldiers that serve this country, because they do the best with what they're given. But soldiers can only operate within the confines that they're tasked to operate within. What I mean is, I don't think the soldiers on the ground were given the flexibility and latitude that some other countries were. We saw other countries leaving the wire, going outside the wire, and physically picking up their refugees or their affected individuals and literally bringing them back into the airport. And we didn't see that with what our politicians allowed the Canadian forces to do. And I'm not privy to the information as to why. But what I can say is that I think our government departments and our ministers, I think they could have done a much better job in collaborating with each other, having better and more transparent communication with the applicant population. But I do think we were probably restricted based on the number of people that could be evacuated, based on the number of aircraft that were coming in and out of that airport. There were only so many seats on so many planes, and hats off to the soldiers that were working on it. But from a political and government department level, I think we could have done a heck of a lot more.
Well, you say you don't know why we haven't, but I want to push you on that a little bit. Why do you think we have been so unambitious in our approach to resolving this?
My gut tells me the Prime Minister didn't want to have a dead Canadian soldier on the front page of the newspaper. And I believe that the Liberal Party of Canada feared that if by trying to evacuate individuals from Afghanistan, if an unfortunate event had have occurred and a Canadian soldier had lost their life, that would have prevented them from securing the majority government that I think they were trying to get with the election that they called. And so I think this is my personal perspective that this was all tied to a lot of the government's mishandling of this situation were directly tied to the election and all of the managing of risk that goes along with trying to secure a majority government. And that, for me, is what is probably the most sad thing of this. I don't think an election should have been called in the middle of one of the most brutal humanitarian disasters that we've seen in a very, very long time. $610 million was spent on that election, and I don't think it accomplished much. And I think a lot of Canadians feel the same. Yet we've been asking and begging for funding for months, and we've received limited funding from the government of Canada that can't be used for some of the key activities that Laura is conducting, like paying for safe houses. The money couldn't be used for safe houses. So you spend $610 million on an election, but we can't get $5 million out of the government to pay for plane tickets and safe houses. So I think there's a lack of, I think the priorities are completely out of whack within our government. And I also think this could have been a massive win for the politicians leading this country, because I believe that the Canadian population is very much behind that. And I'm seeing it every single day with the donations and the financial support we're getting from Canadians all over the country. I'm talking $250,000 donations from wealthy family offices down to $25 donations from senior citizens on fixed incomes. This is something that Canadians care about. And I think there's a massive opportunity for the new cabinet to get some positive wins out of this by just making it a priority and helping to get the most vulnerable people, who are those that are inside of Afghanistan, out of that country and here to Canada.
I take your point, Corey, on the political timing of all of this, but that election that you just referenced, I mean, it's been over for almost 2 months. So what's stopping them from getting their act together now?
Well, I'm not a politician, and so I'm learning a lot of this as we go. But from the day the writ was dropped, which is the day they call the election, the government goes into this caretaker mode where not a lot seems to happen. And we're still in that caretaker mode, and I don't think cabinet's going to sit for another couple of weeks. And as a result, it's very hard to get anything done. And so, as much as our team has been collaborating with, chiefs of staff, with ministers, and with various government departments, I think a lot of people's hands are tied. And I think this is one of the hard parts about the way our government is set up is I don't think the IRCC or our intergovernmental departments are necessarily set up to deal with this type of catastrophe that requires immediate action.
Well, hang on. I'm going to jump in on that, Corey. I'm going to jump in on that because the caretaker provision that you've referred to means that no government is supposed to do anything controversial that probably doesn't have the support of all the members of the House of Commons. This surely does. So again, I'm not blaming you here, obviously, but I don't get what the excuse is for inaction when surely this would be an issue that would have broad support in the House of Commons and in the country.
I absolutely agree. And this is why, I'm talking to you today, and why I continue to take every interview that's offered to me is I think people in Canada need to know that this stuff is happening. I don't think a lot of people know that we're this inefficient at getting things done. And I mean, these are folks trapped in a country on the other side of the world that served us, that worked for us, that answered our call for help. And what I'm really concerned about is what the heck's going to happen next time the government of Canada decides to deploy the sons and daughters of this country to another bad place that needs our support. How the heck are we going to go get local translators, local contractors, and local workers to support our mission when we are absolutely failing those that we promised to bring to Canada during our deployment to Afghanistan?
Well put. Corey Shelson, retired captain, thank you for your efforts, and we appreciate you coming on to TVO tonight and sharing your views on this important subject.
Thank you much, Steve. I really appreciate your support.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.